In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of In Full Zoom. I'm Nestor Licanto. I'm very pleased to welcome as our guest this week former Governor Carl Gutierrez, who is now the president of the Guam Visitors Bureau. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the latest is for the Guam tourism industry. Welcome, Governor. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Make sure you include a CEO, because that's when they changed that several years ago, it opens doors somewhere in the Asia market. Right? President and manager doesn't cut it too much. But
Yes,
CEO
sir,
does. It works. It worked. Whoever thought it up, it worked.
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir. I stand corrected. Governor, you just returned from a couple of trips overseas. First one to South Korea and the other to Japan. Can you give us an update on what you folks did, first of all, in South Korea?
Okay, well, perfect, because South Korea was the first, April 1st, when they lessened the protocol requirements and made it easier for us to come in. We were the first ones there. We didn't skip a beat. We were there before Japan, even before CNMI. I mean, not Japan, but before Hawaii. And so when we were there, we went and did a whirlwind meetings with including the U.S. Embassy, everybody that's involved, all the airlines, 6 of them that served Guam at that particular time, to get their take on what's happening with their schedule. And they were all very excited. They couldn't wait to because sometimes it takes two months to set up their aircraft scheduling and all that, right? But I think some of them already kind of knew that right after the election in Korea, there's going to be a push for economic development more than all of these lockdowns, et cetera, right? And that's what we got out from the U.S. Embassy themselves, that when it was over, they knew that it's going to be opened up for economic development. So some of these guys probably knew ahead of time, and they already set up their schedules. Jin Air, for example, Korean Air already knew they're going to double up their flights weekly, and then Jeju. And so everyone, Air Seoul, for example, already had taken a survey that said of the people that want to travel, was Guam came out number 1, right? And so all of T-Way also was doing their own legwork. But the key here was that they knew that if it opens up, Guam is the key place, because they brought 756 people to Guam in 2019, and they overtook Japan. So they want to do that again. Air Seoul particularly, these are all part of Korean Airlines and Asiana Group, right? But now they're kind of all one faction. So all of these low-cost carriers are coming up, and so they're the ones that have ramped up. They're heading here right now. I went into the dermatologist yesterday, Dr. Yang, and he says, "My gosh, I've never seen so many Koreans here already on the ground. Thank you for making that visit." I said, "No, thank you for Korea, not really easily to be scared about pandemic." They said we can live with COVID, right? That was the attitude. It's a little bit different in Japan. Japan's more conservative. So I said it was easier for them to lift the protocol, harsh mandates, and have them start flying here. So they're seeing the people here right now. If you go down into Tumon, you'll see honeymooners here right now. One airlines are pushing the Korean honeymooners here right now. And so you see a lot of 70% of one flight was all honeymooners. So it's working, but Korea has already made the jump. By next couple of weeks, or let's say June, there'll be all daily flights or 2 times daily flights. So there'll be like at least 11 flights a week by June from all the different airlines, or even 20 flights a week. It depends. But and as far as Japan is concerned, the Prime Minister made a speech in London yesterday and said that everybody discerned that he was going to start easing the protocol. So we're also getting ready for Japan to make its move very, very soon. Hopefully it says June. And it's only a month away for June. So we're preparing for that.
So you were just most recently in Japan. What was the reception there, and what did you get out of that trip?
Well, the key here is that the United Airlines was the most forthcoming. The 2 Takahashis that run United Airlines that take care of Guam, Micronesia, and Hawaii, they're responsible for this part of the world, has been more than forthcoming. They're the ones that came here and said we're doubling up our flights. I think there's going to be more than a doubling up of the flights right now, because they feel also that their campaign of getting the PAN government to ease up a little bit more. We know that on their June 10th election, that's when things are going to change right after that. People are kind of wary rather about doing something wrong between the now and June 10th, for fear of losing majority of whatever their system is over there in diet. And the prime minister might change, but as it looks, it may not. But it stops them from making decisions that might impact on their election. So after June 10th, I think there's going to be a movement quite easily made that can get more flights coming out of Narita to Guam. But let me say that the most gratifying thing I got from Mr. Takahashi Taru is the fact that the Haneda Airport, they have 5 flights. And as I understand the way the United States federal government and the Japan government made this Haneda designation for slots in Haneda, is that they want it for the long haul, from Haneda to Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, all of those places, right? 5 places. But United said, Governor, you talk to your governor, Lou Leon Guerrero, and let's figure out how to get to the federal government of the United States, Transportation, State Department, and we are willing to give up 1 slot of that thing for Guam. And maybe San Francisco, maybe LA, because they have 2 going into California. So I said, I spoke to the governor right then and there. I messaged the governor from our meeting, and she said, yes, let's figure out. So I'm drafting a letter for her first right now to send to the State Department and to the Department of Transportation to speak with the Japan government to let one go, let one slot go for the short haul, which is Guam. But more importantly, as I talked to Frank Santos at the airport, and Frank Santos kind of knows the airport routings and airlines, he also is helping to draft the letter, because I didn't realize that there are some slots at Haneda that belongs to DOD, and DOD, I think, is going to give it up or giving it up, and so we want to try to tap into it and get also a slot or 2 from the DOD part of their designation there. So things are looking up. That the pandemic has its goods and its bad. The good part is for us is that a lot of the other airlines that had a slot in Haneda have closed down and moved out. So it left a lot open. So Haneda is such an important airport for us.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E.
Yeah, and I would point out that would be a direct flight from Tokyo, and that's the significance of having that, as opposed to an hour and a half out from the current airport that services Guam.
Exactly, and so that's everybody wants to fly into and out of Haneda. That's where majority are. So Guam, we have to do this for the long haul, and so hopefully that thing comes well for us. The governor is so excited about it. We're not ready to travel yet to Washington, D.C. to see the State Department and the Department of Transportation. But certainly over the next week and a half, we have to really craft that letter well for the governor to send out. And Frank Santos and I are putting that together.
Yeah, that would be quite a significant development, Governor. Let me just ask you, I spoke with the COO of the Philippine Tourism Promotions Board yesterday, and her prediction for the Philippine market was that it would take another 2 to 3 years to get back to where they were pre-pandemic, which is pretty much what the other global markets are saying. What is your current assessment of Guam's tourism industry right now? And what is your prediction for when we will reach full pre-pandemic recovery?
Well, it's not going to be 3 years. Not that I'm sitting here. I'm telling you right now, I don't have maybe three more years to live, but I want to do something to bring it back to 2019 level. And right now, the way I see Korea moving fast, I think that, and the fact that even in Japan, where the yen is up over 140 right now to a US dollar, it makes it prohibitive for Japanese tourists, to make their money go a longer way, right? Because they have to spend more yen now to leave and fly out. But here's my strategy, is that because it's 140 and their buying power is less, it's even less buying a flight to Hawaii. So we're going to do a campaign where it says, you want to make your money go a long way, just go 3 hours south, southeast of Tokyo, and you're in Guam. So that's our campaign strategy right now because of the yen, the value of the yen. And I think that, you got to make lemon out of lemonade, right? So I think that's lemonade out of lemon, whatever the whole thing is, right? Or calamansi, I don't know, but it's going to work.
Governor, we've talked a lot over the years about diversification of the tourism industry. We continue to rely on South Korea and Japan as our main source markets. When is this diversification going to happen? And has the pandemic proven that it is really necessary?
Well, first of all, let me say that part of our third leg of our source market, besides the Philippines and that part of Asia, is Taiwan. And Taiwan, as I gathered some inside info, is that very soon the protocol for quarantine is going to go cut down in half, and then maybe another half later. But that's a key market for us. Although at the peak of Taiwan visitors coming here was around 29,000, but that's only with one airline flying so many flights a week, maybe 2 or 3 flights, possibly only 2 flights. Now we have 3 that are designated to fly to Guam: Starlux, EVA Air, and China Airlines. It used to be only China Airlines. So they're all waiting and champing at the bit ready to come to Guam. So that's a big market. They spend a lot of money here. Save the China market, they spend more per capita when they get here, each individual. So Taiwan is a good market, and I'm pushing for Taiwan. But I am also not forgetting China, because there are millions of people that have 10-year visas to the United States. And I know there's a little bit of this push back and forth right in the Indo-Pacific area, but still, I've made a trip already to Shenyang. They want to fly from Shenyang to Korea to Guam. That's 5 hours only with connecting, and vice versa, right? But when I was in Japan, I met with the subsidiary low-cost carrier of Japan Airlines called Spring Japan. Japan Spring is what it's called. They have 6 aircraft, 737-800, and they were flying to China. They were flying to Beijing, they were flying to Shanghai, they were flying to Shenzhen, right? And their aircraft has been sitting on the ground now simply because of the uncertainty and uncertainty of things in China when they have a protocol. They were flying in to land in Shanghai, and they had to turn around because the protocol changed. Those are the things that they cannot handle when you're running a business like that. So they eyed Guam. Guam is their focus right now. So they're working to get an ETOPS certification so that hopefully 6 months to a year, they can start taking that low-cost carrier, the 6 aircraft, and start moving it to Guam instead of China. So that's a big one. And these people that are running that used to be the heads of Japan Airlines. So we have to figure out how to just not depend on Japan Airlines or United. Those 2 carriers, they have wide bodies. We got to go to the low-cost carriers where people can really afford to get here.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E.
Governor, let me ask you about the Philippine market. I know at one point you were working on a Guam-only visa waiver for the Philippines. As you're probably aware, the Philippines is having huge presidential election on Monday, and it looks like Bongbong Marcos is going to be the next president of the Philippines. Talk to me about what you think the prospects are for the Philippines, and what sort of connections might you have to the new prospective incoming administration.
I think it's going to be Bongbong Sara, right? And that's the way I see it. And let me say that in first week of March 2020, I was in the Philippines meeting with Rufus Rodriguez, who was from Cagayan de Oro, who used to be director of immigration in the past. I met him 25 years ago with my Pari Romigo, and they're still compadres, so we kind of call compadres, right? And then, of course, Manny Pacquiao. And we got together to see how we can push for the visa waiver program. And I was moving that forward. I reached out to President Trump at that time. And Juan Carlos Benitez here, as a Republican, was helping me put something together. And the President Trump was ready to help grant us the visa waiver from the Philippines. And then the key here and the kicker here was Manny Pacquiao, right? He loved Manny Pacquiao. So I told Manny, can we travel to Mar-a-Lago and see the Trump and meet with him, because he wants to give Guam the visa waiver program with the Philippines. And he says, yes, okay, we'll set it up. And I was there like on the first week of March to close it out, right? On the 9th of March, they're threatening to lock down Manila. So my wife, Jerry, and I said, let's get out here tonight or tomorrow, because I don't want to get locked down for months in Manila, right, with the COVID. So I came back here on the morning of the 10th. And 4 days later, the governor closes down Guam so everything stopped.
Bad timing.
So now I didn't stop in my political connections, right, through what's going to happen after May 9th election, I'm already reaching out on the potential winners, right? I said it 3 or 4 months ago that it was going to be Bongbong, and I still believe it, and Sarah. So all that outreach already has been gone into place. So the first thing I do, I think it's June 30 is the inauguration. Right after the June 30 inauguration, or even before that, I might make a visit to Iloilo. I might make a visit to Ilocos Norte, where Bongbong is, maybe, or in Manila, and start laying the foundation out for that visa waiver partnership to push to the United States. And as long as Brandon is still there in Washington, D.C., I think he's going to be kind of soft on something like that, because he's letting everybody in from the border of Texas and Arizona, so maybe he'll let them into Guam.
All right. I wanted to ask you, from your vantage point, you've been at GVB for a couple of years now, but prior to that, you were also the chief economic advisor to Governor Leon Guerrero. From what you know of tourism now, from the inside, are we too reliant on tourism, and do we need to diversify and maybe look at other industries to support the tourism and the military? Well,
Ed Camacho and I have made several trips together, particularly to Taiwan, some of the Philippines, but particularly Taiwan and China. And in Taiwan, the governor has focused their attention on Taiwan, not only for the tourists coming in, but also for increased airline activity, for medical care in Taiwan, for fruits and vegetables, for air cargo. And that's why we're going to be applying for a waiver on the Fifth Freedom on cargo as well, so that they can actually fly real cargo planes here. And we finally found one in Korea that has bought one full cargo plane, Jin, which is the lower Jeju, I believe, that lower cargo, low-cost carrier, so that we can start diversifying and moving materials back and forth. And also we've been looking at what we can do with the pharmaceuticals, where we can do some kind of a pharmaceutical put together medications here, Guam, U.S. Stamped, and sending it to the United States. That's been worked on by Ed Camacho right now. We're going to move all forward on that. That's a lot of stuff like that, but we still have to depend on the one export that we have here, and the only thing we export here are tourists, and we want to continue with that because that's our mainstay. And while we do that, let's look for something else. And So I focus my attention right now to jumpstart the economy by getting tourism back, and then start focusing. And Gita is doing a good job. Mel and Ed Camacho are with us on that, and the governor is keen on making China that one that's going to work right away.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises Inc. and IT&E.
I mentioned the military earlier, Governor, and I'm wondering from your perspective as well. And the military, of course, they're spending hundreds of millions, if not a couple of $1 billion on Guam for this military buildup. But if you look at who's winning the contracts, it's mostly mainland-based contractors. And I know
I don't think so. I don't know. It used to be, but right now I just see Black Construction winning, Reliable Builders bringing it, Corteg winning. I think it's just the way it is. I mean, politically, we can't. Those guys in Washington, D.C. rely on those. They're patronage to other people too. So we got to live with that. I know, but the only thing is that I hope DJ Cruz, our OPA, gets on top of these people to pay their fair share here, and nothing leaks out. And I think he's doing a good job with that. So. Yes, but I think that the old saying that everybody's winning from the outside, it used to be. But I think with enough pressure from the governor here, it's making it very difficult for them to continue to, NAFAC to continue to give it to the outside people. But I think they're figuring out how to make sure that our people here win.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that question with the tax situation. Are they paying enough taxes here? And I know at one point when you were governor that you were trying to get the tax code, because we're currently mirroring the U.S. tax code. You were trying to work on a Guam tax code. Is there a need for that, especially in light of all the?
I carried that all the way to the end, and I realized, first of all, the people of Guam did not want to file double taxes. Okay, they don't want to file a tax for the territory of Guam and federal tax. That's what you would have to do if you segregate yourselves and write your own tax code. I didn't want to jeopardize Section 30 as well. So there's these things that said, let's stay with it as long as we figure out that we're single file here. And so, and also to make stick that the federal commission that I proposed to President Clinton will make sure that when legislation starts to go through the U.S. Congress, that we have a federal commission empowered by the President of the United States. I offered for suggestion for three commissioners, all appointed by the President of the United States, but one being recommended by the governor of Guam, that will review every piece of legislation Congress puts in that may affect Guam positively or negatively. This commission will be submitting their written testimony that if you do this, this one size fits all, it's going to hurt Guam, or it's going to, and so be careful, exempt Guam and other territories if you need be, but there's a check and balance. This representative democracy, where we all say that we are representative democracy, but yet we have no real meaningful participation in the way that the laws are made that govern our lives. I know we have a delegate there, but he's overwhelmed. He doesn't vote in committee now. He doesn't even vote on the floor. And sometimes they don't let them speak, right? But if it's a presidential commission, they have to wait for the input from that commission. And it's like, let's see what kind of legislation that would be good or bad for Guam. One example that was good for Guam, that the one size fits all helped us, was back in 1969. You weren't born yet, Nestor, but they did a surcharge. Congress decided that the IRS, Treasury said, let's do a 10% surcharge where they have authority, right? So everybody had to pay. This is to pay for the war in Vietnam in 1969. Well, they surcharged us, right, in Guam, but the money all came back to Guam. They didn't use it for the Vietnam thing because that's the way it worked, right? So that's one of the things that I'm saying, that sometimes it's good, but most of the time it's bad.
All right. Hey, Governor, we only got about a minute left, so I want to leave you with the one last question, going back to tourism. How's your relationship with the board? I know that there was a little bit of contentiousness in the most recent meetings. How's that going?
Well, first of all, I think I tried several times. You know, I think there was practices in the past where you have rules and regulations that's contrary to law, and they've been practicing that. And you know, when I came in, I said that thing cannot continue. And so we brought the council in, and they were tutored and told about, you can't do this, you can't do that. But they didn't want to listen. They kept on with the old bad habits of continuing to try to manage GVB. That's not the function of the board. The board is just to set the policy. And once the policy and the budget has been passed by the legislature, signed by the governor, it's up to management here. All the management needs to do is once a month, do a financial report to the board, and every year you report back to the board. But this idea of every board trying to manage how much is going to Taiwan, that's a management board. They're not a policy board. So I just called them out on it, and they can't continue to do that. And so Milton, the chairman, made a speech, and one of the board meetings says, okay, we welcome, if that's going on, we welcome an investigation. So that's going on right now by our legal counsel.
All right. Thank you so much, Governor. Always a pleasure talking to you. That's Governor Carl Gutierrez, the president and CEO of the Guam Visitors Bureau.
Make sure you travel to Manila so we can push for that visa waiver.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks.
All right. I'm Nestor. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next week on In Full Zoom.
In Full Zoom is presented by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. and IT&E.